Do the United States now see Great Britain as a failed state? Because what just happened between Washington and London is not diplomacy. It's a verdict. Donald Trump has delivered a judgment on Keir Starmer so cold, so dismissive, that it may mark the final collapse of the so-called special relationship. Picture this. Late 2025. London's worst geopolitical nightmare has arrived. For months, the mainstream media insisted Starmer could manage a Trump presidency. That claim has now been completely destroyed. Today, the White House didn't simply ignore Downing Street. It publicly humiliated it. In a statement released from the Oval Office, Donald Trump didn't just criticize British policy. He openly questioned the legitimacy of Starmer's leadership. Decades of diplomatic protocol were shredded in seconds. The British Prime Minister was no longer treated as an ally, but as a liability, an irrelevant figure on the world stage. And the consequences are enormous. The United States is Britain's most important strategic partner. Yet while Trump rolls out the red carpet for leaders across Europe, Asia, and the Americas, he has slammed the door shut on London. Why? Because the bill has come due. Every insult hurled at Trump by labor figures throughout 2024 is now being repaid, with interest. Sources in Washington say Trump has ordered his administration to completely ghost the British government. And then came the moment that changed everything. Just 48 hours ago, leaders from Hungary, Argentina, and Israel were welcomed into the White House. Where was Starmer? Nowhere. Ignored. Instead, Trump did something almost unheard of. He invited Nigel Farage, Starmer's fiercest rival, to a private dinner at Mar-a-Lago, publicly praising him as the true voice of the British people. This wasn't a breach of protocol. It was a political execution. Trump was sending a clear message. He does not recognize Starmer as Britain's legitimate representative. But the humiliation was only the opening act. Because words hurt, but economics destroy. The Oval Office rebuke was just a warning shot. Now the artillery is firing, and the target is the British economy. Trump's tariffs, dismissed by the media as campaign bluster, are now reality. A universal 20% baseline tariff on all foreign goods. And yes, Britain is included. Markets immediately reacted. The Office for Budget Responsibility released a report that reads less like a forecast and more like an autopsy. Under the new tariff regime, the UK economy is projected to shrink by £22 billion in a single year. That isn't a recession. That's a depression-level event. British industry is already buckling. The automotive sector, once the pride of UK manufacturing, is collapsing. Jaguar, Land Rover, and Mini are forecasting a 25% collapse in US sales. Americans aren't paying a 20% premium for British cars when Trump is making Buy American cheaper by design. Pharmaceutical giants aren't waiting around either. Companies like AstraZeneca are threatening to relocate major research hubs to Boston, bypassing Britain entirely. This isn't capital flight. It's a brain drain. And the countryside is next. British farmers, already squeezed by labor's tax changes, are watching their premium exports priced out of the U.S. market overnight. Whiskey, beef, cheese, gone. Starmer promised growth. Trump delivered economic shock. And here's the truth Downing Street refuses to admit. This was avoidable. Because this crisis isn't just about economics. It's about ego. Sources close to the White House confirmed Trump set one non-negotiable condition to begin trade talks: the immediate removal of Foreign Secretary David Lammy, a man with years of public anti-Trump rhetoric on record. Trump demanded his resignation. Starmer refused. Starmer chose loyalty to a friend over protection of the economy. And now Britain is paying a price. But the conflict runs even deeper. This is ideological. Trump is aggressively pushing a peace framework for Eastern Europe, cutting off endless money and weapons. He wants the war to stop. Starmer, desperate for relevance as his domestic support collapses, has been rallying European leaders to keep the conflict going, directly undermining Trump's strategy. A leaked transcript from last week's NATO summit is explosive. According to the leak, Trump pointed at the British delegation and said, "You want world war because your economy is failing. You need a distraction. I want peace." That is unprecedented. A U.S. president openly accusing a British prime minister of warmongering to cover domestic failure. And then came the intelligence crisis. The Chagos Islands deal, pushed through despite Pentagon warnings, has triggered alarm across Washington. U.S. officials now believe Britain has compromised the security of Diego Garcia. Marco Rubio issued a chilling warning. The UK can no longer be trusted with sensitive intelligence. That puts the Five Eyes alliance on life support. Washington is actively considering restricting Britain's access to classified satellite data. In the eyes of the U.S. administration, Starmer isn't just unreliable. He's a security risk. And finally, the culture war. Elon Musk, now heading Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, has placed Britain under a global spotlight. Daily posts, millions of viewers, arrests over social media, speech restrictions, police crackdowns. Washington's narrative is now fixed. Britain is seen as high tax, low growth, and low freedom. America is booming. Britain is stagnating. Starmer bet on the wrong side of history. Now he has two options. 1. Fire David Lammy, fly to Mar-a-Lago, and beg for forgiveness, live on camera. Or 2. Cling to power while tariffs drag the UK into recession, triggering an inevitable collapse of his government. So the question is unavoidable. Can Britain survive 4 years of Trump without a trade deal? And has its prime minister become a national security liability? The pound is trembling. Washington has moved on, and Trump holds all the cards.